Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Chloe. Today I'm going to show you guys my updated version on how I do my heatless curls. Gotten a few questions on how I do it, and I have changed it up slightly since the last time I filmed this. I know there's a ton of videos and tutorials on this out there on the internet. This is just what I do. This is just what works for me. Let's just go ahead and get started. So my hair is kind of wavy right now. I just had it up in a claw clip all morning, so it's not really a good representation. There are some pieces that are still decently curly. So these are left over from 4 days ago. And I'd say for 4 days ago, I mean, it still looks pretty good. Obviously, on a day like today is a day that I would touch it up, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit. I'm gonna start off by showing you the typical traditional way that I do it on the night that I wash my hair. I personally only wash my hair once a week. So for just example, and today I'm not gonna wash my hair and get it wet, but keep in mind that I would normally do that. Before I get into how I do it, I am going to show you what I use. I just use a very large hair silk scarf. It's not necessarily a hair scarf, it is just a silk scarf. It's pretty big. I can probably measure it and put it in the description below exactly how large it is. You don't necessarily need one this large depending on how long and thick your hair is. I have like a fine to medium texture, and I have a good amount of hair, but nothing too crazy. So I'd say for the average person, this size will totally work. I usually start by folding it in half. Once I have it in half in this triangle, how you would put on a bandana,
you will take the corner and start folding it down. I do like an inch and just roll it all the way up until you have this. That when it comes to doing heatless curls in this form, whatever you use to wrap your hair around is what changes the way your curls come out. Of course, the way you wrap it has something to do with that as well. That much I will be showing you. I know most of what we see online is like this thing, and that is definitely a great option. I personally have not used one of those. The biggest complaints I hear about it though is that it is not comfortable to sleep on, which I could kind of see. It does also give you a much looser curl because it's just straight up something that's thicker. It's the same idea as using a bigger barrel curling iron. Larger in diameter that the tool you use is, the looser the curls are gonna be. So that is something to keep in mind when you are deciding what tool you want to use to wrap your hair on. I also think that that foam tool is much better suited on like longer hair than what I have even. It's just something to think about, that with each different tool you use is going to give you a different result. Let me show you how I typically put it in. I'm going to comb through my hair first. You're going to want to part your hair where you usually do. Keep in mind that if you wear a more aggressive side part than like what I have, your curls on one side might end up a little bit looser and thicker simply because you have more hair on one side of your head. Once you have your hair parted the way you like to wear it, you need to split it in half. I actually just changed the way that I do this recently. I don't like to just take it down the middle anymore and split it. Honestly, it can be as messy as you like it. If anything, the more hair crisscross, the better. Just to not get like a weird parting and for it to look weird in the back, I've actually started doing a zigzag parting, which I will show you how I do. Honestly, this does not need to be perfect. I just kind of guess. Genuinely, the more crisscross, the better. You don't even have to do it with a comb or a clip. You can kind of just split your hair however. You basically just don't want it to be a direct straight line, because when you're wearing your hair day to day and you pull all of your hair forward, that can look a little odd in the back of your head. Because I only wash my hair once a week, I'm not going to wash it right now for you guys. It's not going to be damp, so we're gonna pretend. I will typically wash my hair, put all of my styling products in, and then I will hang out for a couple of hours until it gets fairly dry. You want it to basically look dry, but feel cold, just to ensure that your hair is gonna completely dry overnight. Putting this in, I just take the center of it and leave the two ends hanging down, put it in the middle of my head. I actually use a claw clip to kind of hold one side in place while I wrap up the other side. I make sure the two ends are even in where they're hanging. I know you can't see it. The other thing, I do have long curtain bangs. And if you do too, there's one of two ways you can do this. When you take your first section, I just section with my fingers. It doesn't need to be perfect. You want to make sure to pull the hair one straight back because that is going to give you volume. And wrap it around. My bangs are clearly fitting. At this point, I could either pull them out if I don't want them to have a curl on the end. Personally, I don't really care because I end up styling my bangs the next morning anyway. I typically try and take 3 partings on the side of my head. This is obviously going to depend on you, how much hair you have, things like that. Keep in mind, the thicker the section you take, the looser your curls are going to be. I just take my second section midway down, making sure to pick up the hair from the first section. And again, you want to pull it straight back. I like to wrap it pretty tightly just because then I know it's like super secure. Of course, if it's a little bit looser, you run the risk of it falling out. And then I take the third section right above my ear. It's okay if you grab a little bit of hair from behind the wrap. Again, pull straight back for that volume. And then here's all the hair that I already have wrapped around it. I'm gonna turn so you can see better. From here, I kind of go straight down towards my ear. With this section in specific, it can get very thick and then you end up leaving a very small section down here. I try my best not to leave a super small section down here because then this becomes a really, really tight curl. So then wrap it around, grab your last section and wrap it around. Now you'll notice all of this is going straight back. I do that because I like all of my curls to go away from my face, but I'm going to show you a different way that I do it that gives you a different effect, a different look. Also, when I am wrapping this part of it, you want to make sure not to touch this too much because if you're like wrapping them together, this will unravel and then loosen all this up after you tie it together. And if you don't want it that loose, you're just gonna have to go back and redo it. And if you're not happy with the way that something is laying, just go back and redo it. Sometimes this area will bulge out a ton on me and I don't want it like that. So I'll just go back and you don't have to take it all out. Just go up to where you messed up and then rewrap from there. The other thing is when you get to this part and you're not picking up any more hair, the way you wrap it the rest of the way down is going to change your curl type. So if you wrap it very close together and again, just kind of straight back, you're going to get a much tighter curl. This is the way that I personally do it because a tighter curl the first day means that the curls stay for quite a few days. But if you want a looser curl, you want to make sure to put space in between the wraps and go kind of diagonally down. That'll give you a much looser curl. You can see I have layers, and if you have layers, that will happen. It's just gonna happen. There's not really any working around that. Once I get to this point, the reason I love the hair scarf so much is you don't need a scrunchie, you don't need a hair tie. I just hold the end and I wrap this around in the same direction I wrapped the hair. You'll also notice that by doing this, it helps hold down the layers so they also get the shape. And then I just kind of loop it in, pull it tight, and that stays like that all night. But as you can see, after I tied it, this loosened up a lot more. Now, it didn't loosen up enough for me to want to go back and fix it. And here I will put up a picture so you guys can see the curl type that this gives. You get a pretty tight, bouncy curl type. On this side, I'm going to show you the other way I've been wrapping my hair and a way that I've also seen other people do. Just going to give you a different curl type. Everything starts the same, so I'm going to kind of speed through this. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this one method. that'll give you different curl types. Option number 1, once you get to this part, you only have one section left. You will finish wrapping this backwards. Hold that little end. I will say this part does get a little tricky. You want to take this last section and pull it forward. By pulling it taut all the way forward, making sure it's not loose, you're gonna get more volume. I wrap it around the hair in the opposite direction. What gets difficult about this is holding your original wrap in place, but I just kind of hold it as I'm holding the scarf. Once you get to the end here and you have 2 ends still, just start crisscrossing. These only need to be crisscrossed once, and then I'm holding them in place while I wrap this around. And I just wrap this backwards because it seems to be the easiest, and then tie it up from here. I will put up a picture of what this effect gives, because you have that one section going the other way, which just helps separate the curls a little bit. Okay, see, sometimes this happens. This is what I mean by this section. And when that happens, I'll rewrap it because this is gonna end up being super loose if I left it like that. The second way to wrap this, and this is almost even a little bit harder than the first way, is doing both at the same time. So once you get to this point, you only have one section left. So I'm gonna hold that, pick up this hair, pull it forward, and wrap it around. Wrap it all the way around, so now both of these are on the same side. From here, you're going to cross them over each other, like that, and wrap around. And it crosses in the back, and wrap it around. So they both end up coming to the same side. Cross and wrap until you get to the ends there. So if you notice here, the gaps again where you can see the scarf, essentially that means that you're just gonna have a little bit of a looser curl. So if that's what you want to see the gaps in between the hair. So now that this kind of looks like a rope, I honestly just do the same thing and twist this up.
So I know this isn't the best photo in the world to show you of the curls, but this is a photo we got. So I feel like you can kind of see it's a little bit wavier. It's kind of like mermaid waves, I feel like. It's just looser, and so looser waves. I feel like that's the main difference.
You'll notice here that this is so much longer than this side, and that literally has everything to do with that there are gaps on this side and there are not gaps on this side. So this is going to be much tighter than this will. I'm gonna let these sit for a little bit and I'll be back to take it out and we can see the results. BRB, bruz. Okay, we're back. It's only been like 20-ish minutes. It really hasn't been too long. I'm gonna start unraveling the side that I put in first. Obviously, these are not going to be perfect or super tight because it's on dry hair and I didn't leave it in for too long. But this is what I do during the week when I just need a little freshen up. Is I will just do it on dry hair and there's a little bit more shape to it. And this is so much looser than what it would be if I had done it on wet hair. On wet hair, it would be much, much tighter. But here you can see what this side looks like. They're just your typical curls. As you can see, this is the curl that goes towards my face. It goes forward. And then the rest of this goes back. Obviously, this is not the best example of what they will look like. That's why I will be sure to insert some photos of all the different ways I wrapped it and the different end results you get from it. But I have to say, heatless curls have seriously saved my hair. I mean, this is so much faster than using a curling iron. It's so much healthier than using a curling iron every day. And I feel like the results last me a hell of a lot longer. Even if it is only putting it in for 20 minutes in the morning while you're getting ready for your day, I mean, I'm not mad at this result. I will go out in public with it and I still feel like my hair is done. Now, would I like it to be a little better than this? Yes, but I definitely still don't think this looks bad. And you can see here what happens to your bangs if you leave them in is they just get this tight flip at the end. I don't really like that, so I just go in with my blow dry brush tool and brush those guys out in the morning. But it does flow nicely, even when you put them in the heatless curls. Seriously guys, practice makes perfect with this stuff. It was definitely a learning curve for me. It took me a hot minute to figure out just how I like my curls. And once you start doing them, you'll definitely figure out the way that you like it and what works best for you and your hair type. That's gonna be all for this week's video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already and leave me a like because it really helps me out. I'll see you guys in the next one.